Thank you, everyone, for being here. My name is Jen Oshiro Rivers of UNLV. I serve in a couple of different volunteer roles with the Alumni Association and specifically the College of Hospitality's alumni chapter. But what's more, I consider myself a craft beer fan. When I go on vacation, my husband brewery or tasting room just to try out. And we're definitely looking forward to some of the beer festivals coming back and being in person or later on this year in town. I'm some craft beer experts and professionals in the industry so you can hear more than just my ramblings. So first, I'd like to introduce James Manos, co-owner of Able Baker Brewing. James grew up in the South, graduating university with a degree in microbiology. In a year he's not willing to divulge. However, he will share that he has more than 20 years of experience in the bar, restaurant, nightlife industry and moved to Las Vegas in working that field. James turned his love of microbiology into a passion for homebrewing and all things beer, and those endeavors eventually been Able Baker Brewing. James and co-owner Randy Rohde began brewing beer commercially in 2017 and opened the current Able Baker in the Arts District in 2019. Hi, Minos.
Oh, aloha. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Next up, we have UNLV alum Matt Brady, co-founder and brewer of Astronomy Aleworks. Matt has lived all across the country, but says he basically grew up in the Pacific Northwest, specifically the Seattle area, which of course makes him a Seahawks fan. Maybe not. He moved to Las Vegas in 2004 to finish his bachelor's degree, which he accomplished in 2006 in English. He worked at FedEx Ground in Henderson for a decade before starting the brewery in 2018.
Thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
Excited to be joined by Johnny Barbosa. Johnny is co-founder of Servehzah Bottle Shop and Tap Room in Colima, Mexico, and raised in Las Vegas, where he graduated from UNLV School of Hospitality in 2016. With 12 years of restaurant and beer industry experience, he has a passion for craft beer and loves talking about it with everyone he meets. Thanks for being here.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again, all of you, for being here and sharing your expertise. A note to our attendees and everyone that's tuning in. Throughout the program, we will have information for each of the businesses up on our presentation. Please make sure you support the local beer scene. I think we all know how hard the hospitality industry has been hit throughout the start of the pandemic, so let's make sure we show them some love. So guys, ready for some beer? We're going to get started, and we're going to go in the order of brewery or business name, which means we'll be starting with Able Baker's Pineapple Kapow Pow. So go ahead and grab that now. You all also receive your beer kit, so slap that on if you want to show your Rebel Pride. And if you didn't join us for our last program in October, we did one in the fall in honor of Oktoberfest. This time around, we've got some excellent beers to welcome in the summer and digit temperatures. So, Manos, what can you tell us about Pineapple Kapow Pow?
So basically what we wanted to do is do exactly what you said. So we have a rotating sour series called our Exclamative Sour Series. Yeah. So what we wanted to do is with the brewery, kind of the theme and the branding built around the brewery is the golden era of the atomic age in Nevada. It's basically 1942 to 1958. And encompassed within that era is really the beginning of the rockabilly movement and also pinup and style, so to speak. So I wanted to find a way to bring that into the branding of the brewery because it's fun. It ties to Vegas. We have kind of a showgirl vibe to it. And so with this series, the Sour Series, we try to always have one in the market. And these are built for the summer, this one along with Cherry Berry Bang Bang. So I just wanted to put that out there and give them fun names. In that era in the 50s, go-go's were very popular. We had the Whiskey Go-Go here in Vegas. We had a Go-Go. I think Jim Morrison was actually arrested there one time. So with that notion, I thought we wanted to fun to repeat that. Cherry Berry Bang Bang, Guava Dip Go-Go, kind of Pow Pow, different things. We have Blueberry Vanilla Blam, and just make it kind of fun and then do the artwork around pinup style. So pineapple is super great when the weather gets warm. This one we kind of keep it fairly simple. We wanted the pineapple to really shine. So if you guys want to go ahead and pop it, we can taste it a little bit and talk about that and do it.
I already popped mine. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's good. So
Okay,
you got
cool.
proper glassware though, Matt Brady.
I do. Proper glassware. I made proper glassware. I have Able Baker pint glasses at home. Didn't have one here. My bad.
You're good. You're good. So as you can see, it pours just about like you would think. We get a nice golden color. It kind of hints at the pineapple flavor that you're going to get. So it's not intimidating from a visual perspective. So what we really wanted to do with this beer is make something light and refreshing that both fit the weather and the environment and that everyone could enjoy. So this is more towards your introductory sour side. It's going to be mildly tart with some pineapple notes and easy to drink. It's got a really acceptable ABV. We keep the ABV reasonable so that everybody can enjoy it as well. So let's take a sip. Cheers. If everybody like one, Johnny, cheers. Jen, you as well.
Yeah, sorry, I already started drinking it.
But like I said, tart more than sour to me with pineapple notes on the front and the back. So we did do something interesting here. Originally, when we started brewing these sours, we were doing, and Matt Brady's got a lot of experience doing this. We were making kettle sours and souring the beer that way. And, through just evolution, really, modern technology in the brewing industry, normally beer is brewed with Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is the fundamental foundation for yeast in the brewing industry to produce beer. Well, they came up with a variation called Salurvacea. So what it does is it's actually modified to produce the lactic acid character that you would get from other ways of souring. So instead of having to introduce bacteria or microbes, agents into the beer that soured it traditionally, they created a yeast that actually did it and produced that sort of flavor. So this is actually brewed with the Salurvacea yeast, which produces that front of the tongue lactic acid bite that you're tasting here. It's a cleaner, it's a way more efficient way to brew this beer. And I'll let Matt speak a little bit if he wants, but I think this is going to be the coming trend in the brewing industry. I think in a couple of years, you're going to see almost every sour ale in the country that's not a barrel aged or wild microbe ale fermented this way. I think kettle sours are probably going to go the way of the dodo because of this product. It's just easier and cleaner, produces a really nice flavor. Nothing wrong with kettle sours, but that's the way this is done. So for me as a science nerd, to be able to say I have a love of microbiology and that influence and affects, the way that I like to brew and the things that we do, to see it actually brought viscerally into effect via this beer is really, really cool because this beer is a microbial product. It's made and defined by the microbial action of the yeast, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
This is that Servehzah yeast he was talking about.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
Yeah, I think Matt's used it a couple times already too, haven't you, Matt?
Yeah, I use it exclusively right now. So what it really does, so you covered how it creates the sour flavor, but traditionally when you make a kettle sour, it basically ties up all your equipment for a couple of days. There's a lot of extra labor involved. There's risk to the brew house because you may sour things. It's not much risk, especially if you do it right. There's a lot of extra time involved, a lot of extra effort. This gets the job done. Now the yeast is about 4 times as expensive as as regular yeast, and you can't reuse it. But it's, in my opinion, well worth it.
Yeah, agreed. We've switched to it for our processes as well. And like I said, when you taste it, it's just a really clean, crisp, bright lactic acid flavor, which I think is more approachable for people. I love, wild microbes. I love wild fermented ales or barrel-aged ales that are allowed to rest on a combination of microflora. But, those produce a different flavor. This is really a more palatable kind of every person to enjoy. We wanted the whole city to be able to enjoy it and the whole area, the whole state to be able to get this beer and really dig it, especially when the weather is warm. It's refreshing. Pineapple's a great flavor. A lot of the other sours that we do multiple notes, cherry berries, cherry and raspberry, guava, gingers, guava and ginger. Our blueberry has vanilla in it. This, we stayed one note. Pineapple's such a cool flavor, and it's such a summer and refreshing flavor. We really wanted that, along with the sour nature of it, to shine. And by keeping the ABV low, we make it really drinkable so you can have more than a couple. To go back to the branding a little bit, but just because I love stuff like this, what we really wanted to do was kind of feature that pinup style, but tile it to a little bit of island flavor. I also think it's really cool to, be as inclusive as possible. So it was really important for me through the course of our branding in these packaging to give people visual representations of themselves and have everyone be able to see themselves in the logo or the brand or identify with the brand that way. So it's kind of cool to get a little island flavor in this one. I lived in Hawaii for a long time. My sister lived there as well. I have Hanai family there. So it's really cool to be able to represent that in Las Vegas, which is kind of the ninth island, so to speak. So that's a really easy play there too, that I think connects to the city and is a lot of fun. And then you get bright, cool colors. So really happy with the way it turned out. My brewer, Matt Marino, did a great job, creating a fantastic recipe and letting us put this into cans. And then thanks to all the purveyors out there. I know a lot of people out there probably didn't come by the cans at the brewery. They got them at Speedy Mart or Top Shelf or from Issa at Corey's and different places. And I just like to give a shout out for anybody that went out to those venues and got that, because that's super important for the local community to do that. It's kind of the circle of life, and to be able to have our beer in those environments and not get beat up by the big boys and get some support is really important. And that's just really grown and changed the way craft beers presented, sold, and received by the consumer in the city of Las Vegas and throughout Nevada. And it's been fantastic. So thank you to those guys. And I appreciate anybody who went out of the way to already have this product before and went and got it. And then if you picked it up today or yesterday, kudos to you as well. Thank you.
Awesome. And actually, Manas would share the inspiration for the brewery name and the duck mascot, just in case people haven't heard the story before, because I think it's an awesome one.
Oh, yeah, cool. So so you mentioned that we're going in alphabetical order, right? So I'll kind of start there. Yeah, I got a DigiDuck. I got lucky. This is one of my favorite ones. And I picked up my bag. I got one of my favorite ducks. But a lot of people will ask us where the name Abel Baker comes from. So it's not my last name. My name's not James Baker. My business partner isn't, Randy Abel. Basically, what Abel and Baker were is when we first started the brewery, we felt that there was a lot of businesses in Nevada or in Las Vegas that weren't really owning being from Las Vegas. And we really wanted to do that. We wanted to go all in and let people know that we were from here, that we were brewing here, that we wanted to represent the city and the state in as authentic and real a way as possible. So I was looking for inspiration, and a buddy of mine who's actually a cop brought me some old Las Vegas Review Journal magazines to read. And in reading through one of the articles, I came across a great story about the old testing they did at the Nevada test site. And in reading about the story, I found out that the first 2 atomic bombs tested at the Nevada test site were named after the military phonetic alphabet of the time. So now it's Alpha Bravo, but back in the 50s, it was Abel Baker. And I was like, wow, that's cool. Abel Baker, it rolls off your tongue. It's easy to say. It sounds all American. It's not offensive. If anybody ever goes to create a tap list and they list their beers alphabetically, it's going to be really hard to come in above Abel Baker. So this is an example of that. You go in alphabetical order and I get to go first. So that was a thought with it. And it really tied back to the state, and it gave us access to all this great state history, the Rat Pack era, the classic era of neon in Las Vegas, kind of the golden era of the atomic age, in the 40s and 50s. And the second big question we get is, why all the ducks? So, we put it on virtually everything. We put rubber ducks in the gift basket that everybody got. So the question that I always get is, what's the deal with the ducks? So here's the story. So when they did the testing in that era, now, unfortunately, I'm going to turn a bad story good, so make your way through it. Unfortunately, they tested on animals during that period because they wanted to know what would happen to soldiers. So over the course of about 16 years, they did a lot of testing. And in the course of that testing, only one animal ever survived the test, and it was a duck. So we took the duck, we put the atomic symbol behind it, we named him the atomic duck, and we use him as a symbol of perseverance and good fortune. It's kind of like our lucky duck. It's our lucky charm. And it just kind of took off. I didn't really understand the power of it until we were already well into it. And if you can see the duck that's in the background here, it's my homie. This actually got brought to me by a gentleman who brought it back from overseas. And it's just crazy. We'll have people come into the brewery that want to taste the beer, but the main reason they're there is because they collect rubber ducks, or because they have ducks as pets, or because they follow duck Instagrams and found out that we have rubber ducks and they want to come and get them. It's pretty insane that there's such a big subculture for it, and I really wasn't aware of it. We just kind of stumbled into it. But once we realized what was going on, we took full ownership of it. If you come to the brewery, every time you get a flight, you get a rubber duck with your flight. We keep buckets of ducks that we have for kids when they come in, if they're distracted or they want some for fun, we give them out. And it's just become a really big part of the brewery and the branding. And I love it. I have about a collection of maybe 800 unique rubber ducks here for myself that either I've collected or people bring me as gifts, which happens a lot, just like homie over here. And I love it. I think it's great. So that's the story of the Able Baker brand and then the Atomic Duck mascot.
Awesome. Could you share a little bit more about your relationship with Van and the 595 folks, because they provide the food in your brewery?
Yeah, absolutely. So Van, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I'll tell you, what we do together. So he runs a place called 595 Craft and Kitchen. And when we were looking to open the brewery, we didn't really want to operate a kitchen. We were looking for a provider to come in and do that for us. And, once again, to tie back to Hawaiian roots and having a love of Pacific culture, Van creates the type of food that we were looking for. We wanted to do something that was a little bit different beyond just burgers and wings and different things. So Van came in and was able to provide that. We do a lot of stuff interacted with them. He has his kitchen within the brewery and we do the brewery, but we've done pairings together. We've used his food to amplify our beer. We've used, our beer to amplify his food. So that's how that came about. And Van's been with us since we opened about a year and 8 months ago.
Notes before we head into some beer trends? No worries. For that. While we sip on the awesome pineapple kapow pow, thought we could go over some news and beer trends for everyone that's tuning. I wanted to talk about the Brewery Row, which was a new initiative from the city of Las Vegas that I think debuted about 5 weeks or so ago. Basically, the city is highlighting several breweries, tap rooms, and bottle shops all in a concentrated area, mostly on Main Street between the Gateway and Art District. And that affects directly Able and Servehzah. So I want to check in on to see if what your thoughts are and how that's helped you or affected you in any way.
Johnny, you want to go?
No, go for it. All right. No, I mean, it has definitely, we've been really grateful as far as like what we have done with the Brewery Row. Especially I know James was involved in that, so we're really grateful. They added banners outside, and it has definitely been it created more of an experience, which, again, we're really grateful for all that. So.
Yeah, so when the initiative got created, and Matt can speak to this a little bit, he's got an area out near him in Henderson that they call the Booze District that encompasses a couple breweries, a winery, some other things. I'll let Matt speak about it. He can speak to it better than I can. But, that was very beneficial for the city of Henderson and in other areas around the country. These sorts of walkable, family-friendly, destination to destination kind of stops have become really the thing to do. If you've ever been to Riverwalk in San Antonio, if you've been to the Gas Lamp in San Diego, if you've been to the Miracle Mile in Chicago, those are the things that as cities grow, they're really looking to do. Give people experiences where you can walk and interact with a bunch of different businesses, take kind of your own personal tour to do it. So creating Brewery Row was really designed for that. We wanted to amplify and expand the Gateway District, the Arts District, give people the ability to bounce around and visit a bunch of different locations, not just the breweries, but other outlets as well. There's a lot of great shops and businesses down there, all intertwined with the breweries, and it's really about supporting everybody. The one thing that I really wanted to do is, I gave speeches for a long time, going back to like 2015 when I did a TV interview, I think, talking about how I couldn't understand why Las Vegas wasn't a center for beverage tourism. If it works in places like Asheville, North Carolina, and Portland, Oregon, who get a tenth of the visitors we get and have smaller populations, and Las Vegas is known for, in a way, alcohol sales, why not drive that beverage tourism and that alcohol related tourism to Las Vegas? And the craft beer community does that in a big way. Johnny popped up and tapped into kind of a new leg of that community and really has shown the benefits from it. But all these little breweries together, what it really allows for is for people to bring their whole family, to walk around, to go and see and experience, to get food, to pop in and out of different venues. And it creates a walkable, family-friendly area, which I think is just cool. I bet you, if you went to the city and you told them 2 years ago that if they could come down to Main Street right now and walk around on a Saturday and a Sunday and see what it was, they'd be clapping as loud as they could clap for what goes on right now, because we got lots of great businesses. We've got a great area, and already thriving and really fun, important part of the city has been revitalized and is maybe as good as it's ever been. We've kept the art notion of it. There's plenty of great art down there. There's art outlets. There's murals. We effort to have art within our venue. I know Johnny efforts to have art within his venue. There's other places on Brewery Row, Craft House, the kind of the ambiance over at Silver Stamp, where people effort to put art into their venue, which I think is really cool, and it ties back to the original notion. So I think you're just going to see this expand and grow. There's probably going to be 4 or 5 more things on this list in short order, some of them already in the works. And I just think it's great for the city. It's close enough to the Strip to draw that crowd, but it's community oriented enough and close enough to a locals area to draw that crowd. So I think you really get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate that. Another update I wanted to share with everyone and do a special highlight for the Nevada Craft Brewers Association. Sort of had a revitalization moment just now, and shout out to another UNLV alum, Wendy Forrest, who's the current president of the representing Craft House in Southern Nevada here. I believe the 2 breweries on the call today are members, and wanted to throw it out there that what's the purpose benefit you as a company? Matt, maybe you want to chime in.
Well, the idea behind the NCBA is to kind of represent us to the state. This isn't much of a craft beer state behind the times. So like only a couple years ago, the maximum barrelage was 5,000. It's 15,000. It's extremely small. So they got to raise to 45,000. That doesn't affect me. Honestly, it doesn't even affect Abel Baker, but it does affect some of the breweries up north. It affects Revision, who's pushing 15,000 barrels this year. They wouldn't be able to operate without this law change. So basically, they just lobby on behalf of all the brewers, try to get us known, change certain laws, because a lot of the laws involving alcohol in Nevada really are based around stuff that isn't us. It's really based around hard alcohol and whatnot, and they have rules. Even the federal government taxes us differently than hard alcohol, but we're treated like hard alcohol quite often down here. They're trying to get things done with distribution. We're still a 3-tier state, and distribution's a necessary thing at a certain point, but at a very early stage, working with a distributor is just basically taking money out of your hands. Now, I like my distributor a lot, Nevada Beverage. They've done a lot of good work for me, and I'm very grateful for them, but when I was starting out, it would have been nice to be able to sell directly to people like Johnny. If Johnny wants, a lot of people don't understand this, but if Johnny wants to buy my beer, I bring him a beer and say, hey man, do you like this? Like recently the Flight Suit Orange Creamsicle. Yeah, cool. I want a keg. I can't sell him a keg. I can sell the distributor a keg. Distributor sells the keg to him. Nevada or the Nevada Craft Brew Association is trying to get that at least amended to where even we could have limited self-distribution. But basically, they're just there to represent our interest to the state, because otherwise we're a forgotten entity. There aren't very many breweries in the state. There aren't very many breweries in the city. There's 17. There's 2.27 million people, last time I Googled it, in the Las Vegas greater metropolitan area. 17 breweries. I know places in Indiana that have 400,000 people and 40 breweries. So there you go. We're really not, we're growing, but as we grow, we're going to need some changes and some laws to make it more beneficial, more common sense thing. It's not like we're asking for anything that other cities, other states don't already have. We just need a more level playing field, and NCBA is doing good work in that behalf.
And I think actually tonight there is that tap takeover at Big Dogs up until 10 p.m. So
started half an hour ago. Yep.
After the call, after this presentation, get your DD, go on over there. I think there were going to be $5 beers, live. It's all a fundraiser for the association itself. So really great work that they're doing there. So bridging the local and international gap, I wanted to bring up some news that came out recently. The UK is opening a rooftop brewery above Showcase Mall area. Want to hear your thoughts on that. It's a very huge name. You know, they operate all across the globe. And how do we think that's going to impact the local beer scene?
Well, I think I'll just jump in. I think that high tide raises all boats. Anything for beer in Vegas is great. I don't think it's really going to have much of a market on the local or much of a impact on the local marketplace. They're going to be in a casino on the roof, and you know, I understand what rent is and whatnot. They're going to have like $20 pints, so not a lot of locals are going to go there, I don't think. I hope they become a good part of the brewing community. I want to meet these guys. I know they've done stuff with locals. They did stuff with Tenaya Creek, one of the episodes of their show. They did the most expensive beer ever made. They did that with Tenaya Creek. It's over at Atomic Liquors right now. Anything for beer in Vegas is good. I don't see this as that big a deal. What do you think, Matos?
If you want to know how it's impacted the local beer scene, I can tell you it's already started. Because they actually, one of their most famous beers is a beer called Elvis Juice. The owners actually got sued for it. And because you don't want to mess with the Elvis Foundation. They are very litigious, so to speak. But they got around it by actually changing a couple of their brewers' names to Elvis for a while so that they could say the beer was named after one of their brewers. But anyway, so with that coming to, Las Vegas, I was like, well, how in the heck can we let a brewery that's not from Las Vegas put out a beer themed around one of the greatest entertainers ever, and nobody else really, do that too. And so, we've already reacted to it a little bit in certain ways. And, I hope it's good for the community as well. I can tell you that if their brewery looks anything like their schematics, they're going to have a pretty amazing facility. And, that can't hurt anybody. It's a showcase piece for people to come down if they have a pint there and get something that they really enjoy. And that leads them to venture off the strip and find locations like Johnny's or mine or Matt's. I think that's great. Matt referenced a rising tide floats all boats. And I think that as well. What I'm mostly excited about for this is it seems that they had the money, the influence, or the lobbying to be able to get the city to agree to have a rooftop venue on the strip, which the city has been not so friendly about in the past. So this might open things up for rooftop music venues, for other rooftop dining. And I think that's great for the city of Las Vegas, because when the weather is nice here, boy, being up top on the strip and be able to look out over is a great thing. So if they help get that changed, I'm all about it. I think Matt's probably making a pretty good guess about their pint price. I think you're going to see venue pricing there, which is going to be, tough to overcome. But I don't think that's their model. I think they want the strip. They want people to come there after shows or before games or before Raiders games and different things. And that's their crowd. They're also huge in the European market, which is a great tourist draw for Las Vegas. So a lot of people that come here that might not be familiar with our local brands are going to know BrewDog because they've had it in Europe or they've had it in England, and they're going to go and get it. And like I said, I think it can't hurt at all. And if they build this that's in the picture, man, good for them, because that's going to be beautiful and amazing.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Our last update before we get into our second beer. I bet you that no one on this call would Queen of England today, but we are. But like I said, just giving you a heads up that the Astronomy Aleworks beer will be next. So if you want and grab that. In the interim, more news out of the UK is that the Queen of England is going to have her own beer, actually two, brewed from plants grown estate in Norfolk. I think it's about $5.50 a bottle for a 500 milliliter bottle with two varieties: a cold filter traditional English bitter and a stronger golden IPA. Described as uniquely natural. So I'm not sure what that means exactly. Maybe you could fill in on some of those details, or what your thoughts on that is.
I mean, for me, I love it. I mean, you know how well a president of beer would have sold? I mean, that might have broke every beer sales record in the history of time. I think you're going to start seeing it more and more too. You know, Jen, we talked a little bit about this off air, but you know, the stigma around tying yourself to an alcoholic product has really been removed in the last 7 to 10 years. You're seeing professional athletes do it, not just retired athletes, but people who are just retired, or who are, even in the case of Ryan Reeves, are still involved. You're seeing other figures who might have tried to move away from an alcoholic product start their own brands. You know, Ryan Reynolds just sold his gin company. There's Puff Daddy's had Ciroc. There's been other people involved in the liquor industry in a huge way. You know, Sammy Hagar, I believe, when he sold Cabo Wabo tequila, made more money from Cabo Wabo than he made in the entire length of his music career, which is just insane to me, because he was a solo artist and him with Van Halen. So the power of it is amazing. And I think that stigma's been removed. I absolutely love it. I think it's engaging. I think it creates a very friendly, personable persona around someone who might be seen as lofty or elitist. I think it connects you with a lot of people, because beer is a community beverage. It was built and designed around bringing people together. And Johnny can speak to this a little bit. The whole nature of his, tap room is about community. It's about bringing people together to have an experience around a common product. And it leads people who wouldn't maybe have associated in different areas to come together and have some common knowledge and find a trend that's a positive thing. And I think when I heard that, I was like, I think it's amazing. And I think more people should start doing it.
No, it's awesome. It's honestly a great idea. I mean, like you were saying, any beer that has a name behind it, it will definitely move. Like we have the El Segundo, Broken Skull. Obviously, it was collaborated with Stone Cold. So it's one of the fastest growing West Coast IPA. So we get people asking for it like daily. So having that name behind the beer, it definitely moves. The only thing is, I wish it was in a 16-ounce can, but a bottle will do. So.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so I think with that, we are ready for our second beer. Matt, if you want to tell us a little bit more about your Golden Ale.
All right, so this is the Golden Ale. So this beer has some history with people here. We brewed this early into COVID because I had nothing to do, because we were closed. And I had a bunch of malt on hand, and my dear friend James Manos called me up, said he wanted to come over and hang out. So we decided to brew a beer. And I came up with this recipe. It's a pretty basic blonde recipe. And just kind of wanted to brew something easy, brew something light, that something that everybody could drink. Real easy to do, real easy to market, just a light, good drinker. And I was extremely pleased with the results. And Golden Ale was not its original name. Its original name was Cheers to the Future. Because when we reopened, the idea was that we were going to get out of COVID at some point, and that this was toasting the future when we could all be in the same room again and drink beer again. So that's kind of what we did, and I think we succeeded pretty well. It's actually our best seller right now. We sell a lot of this beer around town. It's at a fairly good price point. Everybody carries it. Servehzah has carried it. I get lots of pictures from people taking pictures of beer on Instagram from them. Manos mentioned Issa Corey at Corey's Fine Wine and Spirits, Speedy Mart. And so basically, and another connection this has with Abel Baker is if you look at the can, it's got a Space Ape on it. And the Space Ape came around because of James Manos, who one time we were down on First Friday, and I'm going to do my Manos impression here. We're down on First Friday. He goes, hey, man, you got that winery behind you. You got to get some barrels from that winery. Age that beer in those barrels, and you got to call it Planet of the Grapes. So with Planet of the Grapes, we have the Space Monkey on there, or Space Ape, I should say. Space Monkey's coming out soon, also a collaboration with Abel Baker. But it kind of became our mascot. As he pointed out, it's like, you know, if you use that thing, it's going to be your mascot, and we kind of leaned into it. We had it painted on the side of our wall, and it's great. So about the beer, again, it's just a light blonde ale. Not very hoppy. That's not the point of this beer. This beer is supposed to quench your thirst. 5% alcohol, nice and medium. Manos mentioned the same thing with his beer, the Pineapple Kapow Pow. This is not a beer that's going to get you wasted, and that's not the point of this beer. It's just a real light drinker. We put a hockey stick in his hand. Obviously, it's got Golden Knights colors. That's not an accident. We're trying to tie it in with VJK, kind of on the low. We're not all like James Manos. We can't all have Ryan Reeves, or not Ryan Reeves beer. Yeah, Ryan Reeves beer. But, yeah, so he's got the 7.5 Brewing going on over there. But it's a really good beer. I really enjoy it. Customers seem to really enjoy it. It pairs with anything. There's nothing you can't eat with this beer. It's really good.
Yes, cheers to drinking in person again soon.
As we do it over the internet.
I'm going to jump in real quick and say something, if I can. First of all, proper glassware. Anybody who knows Matt Brady knows he's obsessed with Star Trek and Star Wars. So a little bit of a homage to that for May the 4th, which is dope. Great glass. This is the first time I've had a chance to drink out of it, which is really cool. So I'm excited for that. And this is actually maybe my favorite thing that Matt makes. I really, really like it. It's super palatable, easy to drink. It's a quality product. And then one more to talk about the Space Ape. It just makes sense, man. Like, it's just such a cool idea. And, you know, I was the one that told him, I'm like, you just got to own it, bro. And he's like, all right, I'm on it. And now he's got a painting. He did t-shirts. He's got a hat. This thing's going to explode. The Space Ape is revolutionary. It's coming for you, people.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, so I mean, but that also just goes to kind of how, like, we're all tight. Pretty much all the breweries, all the brewers, we all get along. We all talk behind the scenes because our enemies aren't each other. We don't really view each other as competition so much as we view the big boys, Miller, Coors, Bud. Even though I'm distributed by the Bud guy. Manos, you guys are distributed now by Coors Miller Company, Breakthrough. You know, so we kind of have to be in league with them, but really what we want to do is get a Miller Lite out of somebody's hands or a Budweiser out of somebody's hands, and any one of our beers. Because if you try my beer, you're going to try Manos' beer. And people like Johnny are great with that. You can't go down to Johnny's place and just say, yeah, give me a Bud Light on draft. He doesn't have it. He carries my stuff. He carries James's stuff. He carries Love Lady's stuff. He carries Tenaya Creek stuff. He carries all the local breweries. And that's really important. Without local people like him putting our stuff on tap, believing in our product, and selling it. I mean, myself and Kyle Juxta Nomad Weniger, we do the house beer for Servehzah called Nueva Esperanza, which is a Star Wars line. It means New Hope. And he's gracious enough to put that beer on. And we're happy. We're thrilled to brew it for him. It's really cool.
Number one beer, by the way.
What's that?
It's my number one beer.
Thank you. Oh, awesome. Yeah, cool. Yeah, we were just talking about when to brew it next. Probably pretty soon, you know. So, yeah, they go through a lot of it, and we're happy to do it. And that's kind of the synergy in this brewing community. Abel Baker's a big part of that. I mean, we all go back. Abel Baker, his head brewers, Matt Marino, used to be of Joseph James. Kyle Juxta Nomad used to be of Joseph James. My current brewer over here, P. Wong, Patrick Wong from Joseph James. Go to Scenic. That's a Joseph James guy. Go over to Bad Beat, across the parking lot from me. Weston started at Joseph James. There's just a lot of connection going back and forth between the breweries. We mentioned Big Dogs earlier because that's where the Beerfest is. You've got David up there. He's the head brewer. He started at Chicago and Barley's before that. One of his co-brewers, Marshall, started at Banger, went to Barley's, and now he's up there. So it's just a great brewing community. We trust each other, we like each other, and we drink each other's beer and enjoy it.
I don't want to get into Johnny's business, but Johnny's got a JJ connection too, because he used to work for the distributor that Joseph James used to distribute through. So he used to actually sell JJ's beer,
which is my distributor.
Yeah, exactly, which is your current distributor. So it's super incestuous, so to speak.
I used to sell your beer too.
I was trying to be nice and call it all family, and you just had to make it weird, didn't you? You had to make it weird.
I'm like, I sell your beer too.
Yeah, exactly. Johnny used to sell my beer too, which is super cool. So it is community and family, and that's really where COVID, I think, affected the beer community so harshly, is because a lot of the stuff that we do is built around community and family and people interacting with each other. Man, it broke a lot of people's hearts not to be able to sit down and break bread and have a beer with their best friends or with their spouse or with the people that they care about. I mean, that's what our whole industry is built around, really. If I was only allowed to sell beer to people who were going to buy one can and go drink it in their basement, I'd only be able to sell beer to Matt Brady.
I don't have a basement. Thank you.
And by the way, Matt spot on Manos impression a little while ago. I heard it clearly.
So bad.
He's heard it as well.
Matt, we actually got a question through the Q&A. Our attendees were curious to know the impetus for the name. Where did Astronomy?
Honestly, it was going to be something else that nobody in the world liked, so I won't go through it. I kind of dug it because it was kind of an acronym, but whatever. But I was actually just going to work. I worked at FedEx Ground for a decade, and we had to work super early in the morning. I just got out of my car, looked up, saw stars, went, Astronomy. I looked it up, Googled it to make sure nobody had taken the name, and they hadn't, so good. But no, I've been studying astronomy since I was in second grade, so it's a natural fit. I'm a sci-fi guy. I'm a science guy. I consider myself a scientist. I appreciate science. I do not appreciate things that aren't science. I'm not an astrology guy. I don't care what your sign is. And we don't make beer sign beers. We have made beers named after those constellations because those constellations are cool. Taurus is a very cool constellation. It has Aldebaran in it, which is an awesome red star. That's the right eye of Taurus. It's cool. We made a pair of beers, called them the Gemini. We called them Castor and Pollux, named after the stars in their heads. Yeah, they're star signs, but we're not astrologers here. No, we're astronomers and scientists and sci-fi nuts, which isn't science, but it's got just as much validity as astrology, I suppose.
Science adjacent, perhaps.
Science adjacent as opposed to astrology, which is not.
Yeah, and earlier we mentioned about the Henderson Booze District. There's a couple breweries in your, as Vegas Valley Winery, a friend of the college, as well as a distillery. I think one of the pictures that's scrolling on this page here was the Passport. Do you want to share a little bit about that program and how that's affected your business, and has it been?
Yeah, absolutely. So Passport's pretty new. This is the second time we've done it. There are 5 businesses here in the Booze District. You have the original, which is Las Vegas Distillery. They are a distillery. You can't just go in there and buy a rum and Coke, unfortunately. You can go in there, buy a bottle of rum, and go home, buy a bottle of Coke and drink it. But they make a great product. I really wish you could just go in there and drink. I'd probably be there more than anybody else out here. It's great stuff. You have the second group, which was Bad Beat Brewing Company. Fantastic guys. That's Nathan and Weston. Those are the original people who started it. Fantastic guys. Great beer. Across from them, you already mentioned Wendy. She is co-owner and founder of Craft House Brewing. Really good friends of ours. They're actually in the same building as us, just 6 doors down. And then you have Vegas Valley Winery. Vegas Valley Winery is fantastic. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not a huge wine guy, but I'm a pretty big wine guy, and I was stunned at the quality of their products. I expected to go in and go, oh, yeah, this is good. This isn't bad. It's really good. It's shockingly good. It's so good. They are actually a huge help to us, which is weird because you'd think the breweries would be bigger for us. The winery and I, we're tight. I love those guys, and they help us out a lot. So we put together this Passport thing where it's basically a coupon booklet. You buy this for $25 and you get $100 worth of stuff in there. You get a free flight here. You get a free flight at Craft House. You get buy one, get one free. You get wine deals. You get liquor deals. You get tours and stuff. It's a really cool thing, and it's well worth the money. You will definitely earn your money back and more if you pick it up. And it's available over at the winery. We tried last time having it for sale at every place, and it just got weird. So we have one central location, Vegas Valley Winery, and everything is within short walking distance, very short walking distance. If you walk out of my place and walk to the winery, it takes 2 minutes and 17 seconds. If you walk out of my place, go past Craft House and go to Bad Beat, it takes 2 minutes and 6 seconds at a leisurely pace. So everything's walkable. It's a little hot. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to drive between each location. I'm going to admit I got lazy the other day because it was so hot, and I drove to the winery. As stupid as that sounds, I drove to the winery. Yeah, I see you shaking your head, Manos. I don't care. It was hot. It was hot, man. Are you walking out to Beer District anytime soon? No? Okay, cool.
Awesome. Any other questions for Matt? Please feel free to put it in the Q&A, or for any of our brewing panelists. Thoughts. I've seen a couple notes through the chat. Everyone's enjoying the conversation. Thank you again for being here. But for anyone at home, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to chat here. On to our next area of other trends and things going on. Actually, would love to hear your thoughts. Being that this is the College of Hospitality, a lot working in the hospitality industry, and tourism, of course, is a big part of that. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And I think I mentioned earlier that when I travel, I try to find a new brewery or a new area. So I want to hear your feedback on two places, one within a day or two's drive that might be a sleeper city has a really banging craft beer scene that we may not know about, and another city or area that you would take an airplane. So I'm going to kick it to Johnny first and put you on if you had recommendations for that.
So sorry, it's a little louder over here at Servehzah. What was that question again?
No worries. Just in terms of brewery tourism, I think people know Denver and San Diego have some really big scenes, but what are your recommendations, or where do you look forward to traveling to that have really big craft beer markets, or maybe a new fancy one visit?
Yeah, actually, it's a neighbor state. I know Arizona has a lot of breweries that are coming up, and has even a lot of bottle shops and tap rooms. So that's definitely a city I would recommend. Even I know Superstition is out there as a meadery, and I think it's one of the biggest meadery in the country. So I definitely recommend Arizona, and it's even not far away. So that's definitely one of the cities I recommend.
Matt, Manos, any other recommendations?
Well, you've got one of the biggest beer markets in the world right over in San Diego. That's a short drive away. California is obviously huge, but everybody kind of knows that. I was a big fan of Denver. I mean, that's not too far away from here. Growing up in terms of that kind of beer tourism, I know that a lot of people coming here, that Brewery Row has made it very easy to hit a lot of breweries. I'm a member of the Facebook group, Las Vegas Beer and Breweries, and I swear every week someone says, I'm coming to town for a day. Where do we go? And everybody chimes in, and it's a lot of go to the beer district because we have places near here, and then go to that Brewery Row area. It's pretty cool how it's kind of consolidated. I wish it were a little more spread out. I wish there were more in the Southwest, but the laws around here make it difficult. Unincorporated Clark County, if you're going to open up a brewery in the Southwest, you have to have food. And like Beno said it earlier, it's like, we didn't want to deal with food. We got Van to do it. And that's an extremely smart thing to do because a lot of people, they just want to brew beer and have a tap room. Getting into food can be a little difficult. So that makes beer tourism a little hard around here because it's you can't go out in the Southwest.
So for me, I'm going to echo what Matt said. I think one day drive. I think if you do the little loop and you go Breckenridge, Fort Collins, Denver, man, you're going to come across some fantastic stuff. Now, it's a long drive, but it's definitely a one-day drive. You can do it and stay in a couple days and then come back. So I think drivability, that's probably my favorite area. Obviously San Diego is a great option. It's so close, but I would do the Breckenridge, Fort Collins, Denver loop, stay a couple days, and then come back. For flights, I'm going to play in a little hometown love right here. There's a lot of great cities in the United States that serve beer, but I got one in my home state that's as good as any place in the world. I love to fly to Asheville, North Carolina. You get Wicked Weed, you get Burial, you get Green Man, you get Catawba County. You get so many great breweries, and you want to talk about a little walkable area. The stuff is just really, really good. And not to speak to a brewery that's sold out, because I like to stay craft centric. And, I love breweries and I love tap rooms, but my favorite tap room or brewing area in the world is in Asheville, North Carolina. If anybody's never had a chance to go to the Funkatorium, which is Wicked Weed's sour only facility, please put it on your bucket list of places to go. It's phenomenal. They create paired charcuteries for every sour they produce. It's in an old, brick building built a long time ago, and it's just a cool vibe. But when you go up into the Asheville area, you can also go through Brevard and go to Ass Clown. White Labs has a place out there now. New Belgium's out there. Sierra Nevada's out there. So you can do a lot of different things. You can hit a lot of really small craft breweries, visit a great, science facility, and then also hit the big boys if you want. So for flying, I think Asheville, North Carolina would be my jam.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think for anyone that's looking for a short day's drive, Cayman, if you haven't been there in a while, kind of out of nowhere, visited Rickety Crickets, why? But it's really awesome. It's huge. It's got beer, at least again from my novice perspective, but super easy to get to if you're not flying yet.
Rickety Cricket was in this market for like a minute and a half. They had a setup down, I want to say it was at Planet 13. And it took it was so much effort for them to get in there, and it closed right away. It wasn't because of business. It was bad. They got bought out because Planet 13 is like, nah, we want a Mexican restaurant instead. So went through all this effort, like, this is what we really want. But they make really good beer, and Terry, who's the owner, really nice guy. I would highly recommend Rickety Cricket Brewing. Really cool people, and it's pretty close to here. You're right.
Well, good to know I wasn't too far off and just, making uneducated. So our next slide as we move forward. Last October in our Oktoberfest edition, we talked about other trends related to either low-calorie or non-alcoholic beers, as well as CBD or hemp-infused beers. Want to see if you had any thoughts on that. She make a great root beer, non-alcoholic root beer. And if you have any other insights into what other sort of beer trends in terms of styles might we see in the future?
Yeah, our root beer that we make is done in collaboration with Chris Kale from Five Finger Death Punch, who's a good buddy of mine. He wanted an NA product. We actually produced Chris Kale and Pale Ale for him as well, which is a double-digit ABV Imperial Brown Rye Ale. And anybody who knows me knows it's my absolute favorite beer that we make. It's a homebrew recipe that I did that actually translated and scaled up and that we still serve to this day and can and package. But the root beer, it's fantastic, man. So good. And it's nice to have an NA thing. People have been, if you just want to get into sheer numbers, the NA market and the low calorie market both continue to grow. The NA market, I think, is now up to almost 4% of beer sales in the United States, which seems like nothing. But when you're talking about billions and billions of dollars, it's footprint. The one thing I can say is people have been saying this trend is coming for a while. Oh, low calorie, non-alcoholic products are going to hit the craft beer industry. You got to be ready. And I just haven't seen it viscerally. They said that about the craft Pilsner market for a long, long time. That story started in 2016. And I really think that we're just starting to see that crest where breweries are sophisticated enough and large enough to start making, great Pilsners. And the craft beer community has caught on to it and done it really well. But they've been saying the same thing about the NA space for a while, and it doesn't have seemed to caught up. There are a lot of niche people doing really cool stuff. I actually personally love session and low-calorie stuff. I kind of clump those together. We make a session IPA called Waddle that I think is one of the best beers we make, and I think it's underappreciated. I'd love to see it get a bigger footprint. The last thing that I'll say is a lot of trends, like I'm talking about low-calorie, low ABV, NA. People speak to the trend coming, and then you think, I don't know, and then it never comes, or it comes really slow. The CBD, THC infused alcohol stuff, that's a freight train that's not going to be stopped. It's probably going to be a long time before you see THC and alcohol allowed to be married together in a product that's sold. I think the government will stop that, but the consumers want it. And the CBD train is just not going to stop, especially in a non-alcoholic product. So that's the one thing I think that if you want to flash back to this conversation in 4 years and you see the amount of CBD infused non-alcoholic products that are out there that are made by breweries or wineries, cideries or meaderies, I think you're going to see it explode. And I think the minute that the first brick comes out of the THC ABV marriage thing, you're going to see an explosion in crossover products between those two things if they ever allow it. Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm not a marijuana guy. It's not my jam. But I can tell you there's billions and billions and billions of dollars behind it, and a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me that are involved in it. I think Corona just sold 20% of the stake in their own business to invest in a Canadian dispensary line. So they've already started to move to the marijuana market. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But it's definitely a space where people who've been producing alcohol for a long time are starting to see the money that's going to come in that area. And honestly, it's sort of a natural progression. And I think the first time it starts, you're going to see a train that can't be stopped.
Like, one thing that to dovetail on that, the reason why you're not going to see anything THC soon is because it's federally illegal. As legal as it is in this state and other states and whatnot, we are very, very guided by federal guidelines as brewers, and it's federally illegal still. So the moment marijuana becomes federally decriminalized completely, Manos is right. That's a freight train that won't be stopped. They're going to start linking that stuff, beer and weed, totally. But until then, it's not going to. But Johnny might have a good perspective on non-alcoholic. Like, at my level, I can't really produce non-alcoholic efficiently. You need better equipment, or I shouldn't say better equipment. You need specialized equipment to really make non-alcoholic. So even Manos, whose breweries, his brew house is probably, you're about 4 times my capacity. Even you can't really do non-alcoholic very easily. It's something that maybe we'd be interested in doing. I mean, non-alcoholic beer. You obviously are doing root beer and whatnot, but people say, yeah, I want non-alcoholic beer. It's kind of like gluten-free beer. You can make gluten-free beer on this equipment, but the market is less of what you'd think for that, because there's so many naturally gluten-free products like, cider, wine, hard alcohol, naturally gluten-free. With beer, it kind of tastes weird. Same thing with non-alcoholic beer. It kind of tastes weird. But Johnny, do you get a lot of asks for non-alcoholic beer?
Yeah, I mean, we get asked here and there. Like, actually, you have ladies who come in and they want to do an actual non-alcoholic michelada. So we get asked a lot. But the main, what I see in Servehzah is the craft seltzers. That is definitely a trendy that is happening. So, like, for example, so we carry Modern Times and seltzers and Spies on the shelf. We have Brewery West, the grapefruit, and it's frying on the shelf, and then along with Belgian Beaver. So I think that's something that's obviously we all seen it as a large scale. Corona, Modelo, Bud Light. So I don't think that's fading away. It's actually growing the most. So hopefully you guys are open to creating a seltzer. But that's definitely a trend that we're seeing here at Servehzah.
Yeah, I don't know if Abel Baker's doing a seltzer anytime soon. Locally, you've got Beer District who did one. Love Lady's done 2, and Mojave did one. That's kind of it's almost like the non-alcoholic were to do actually good seltzers, because I could throw a bunch of water and sugar and yeast and make a seltzer, but it doesn't taste great. To do it right, you have to have some specialized equipment. That said, it's a far lower investment than making non-alcoholic beer. It's like, Johnny, you mentioned Belching Beaver. They make great seltzers. So does Modern Times. Yeah, that stuff I'm sure flies off your shelves. Beer companies can't keep it in stock. Yeah, it's really, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Yeah, I'll drink it. It tastes good. It really does. But I literally can't make that product with the equipment that I have. I would need to get some extra stuff. But you look at that as an investment. You're talking about ciders too. We were talking about doing cider. That's a $20,000 investment for us if we were to do that, including the licensing involved to be able to do cider, because you need a winemaker's license. I'm not whole hog on it, but you look at Mojave Brews, they brew your cider, man. They went and made guess what they sell? A boatload of cider. They're buying new fermenters just for their cider. I told Griff, who's the owner of that place, I said, in 5 years, you're probably going to be known as Mojave Cidery.
Yep.
Yeah. Beer will be their side product. Their excellent cider, that's what they're going to be known for,
Yeah,
Which is cool.
They brew our ciders, and it's like, we call it Tamarindo Lindo. It's a tamarind cider, and it's by far one of our biggest ones. So we carry 4. So it's a mango, guava, pineapple, and tamarind is definitely one of our top ones. So, they brew 20 kegs for us, and we kill it in less than 3 months. So that's something to say. So.
And, hey, maybe Johnny can talk about the fact that they're doing something really cool where they're actually doing, and I don't know if it's a different term, but they're actually doing their micheladas with cider instead of beer. And I personally know people that are going nuts for it, and I'd never seen that done before. So maybe he can talk about that and how his consumers really do.
Yeah, so we have so when we started, we wanted to do like a mango chelada, right? So we were trying to add a puree to a michelada mix, but the consistency wasn't there. It was like too concentrated, too thick. So we started rolling with the regular michelada, and then Ace Cidery, the red, came along, and he's like, "Hey man, like I got the mango cider," and it's like, "Oh great!" So we just decided to try it with our mix, and it was a hit. So that's how we started with the mango one, and then we got the wrong keg and one time, and it was a pineapple. So you know what? It's a pineapple. Let's just go for it. We tried with the pineapple, and it was a hit again. So it's like, wow. So mango and pineapple, and then they have a guava cider. So then we brought it in, and it was a hit. So now we have mango, guava, pineapple, and then now with the Mojave we have tamarind. So now we give our guests the different options of michelada. So we actually have a michelada fry with a 5-ounce taster of every single one. So we have a traditional mango, guava, and pineapple. So it's something we do here at Servehzah. So
That's cool. And then Matt asked if we would ever do a at Able Baker, and I only have this statement. My brewer is Matt Marino. Like, you want to talk about a blank stare I would probably get? That'd be a really short conversation, I think. Hey man, we're gonna do a pineapple seltzer. Blank stare. I love Matt. He's a phenomenal brewer. He's super well respected. He makes great products, but he's a brewer's brewer. He loves to make traditional styles. He loves to really follow the guidance of the Brewers Guild. He brews for brewing, man. He's super passionate about it, and I don't even know if I would try to push him in that direction, because I might get hate mail.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Hey, we're going to roll into our last beer. Kind of a non-traditional, because we are working with Johnny, and we're so grateful to be having you on the call with being a bottle shop and tap room and not necessarily a full brewery. So if you want to tell us why you chose the brewery's horchata and how that's related to Servehzah.
We're not as cool as Matt and Manos. We're not a brewery, so yeah. So we have so we have over 130 cans here at Servehzah, and by far the brewery horchata is our #1 can. Obviously, it fits our culture. For those who don't know what horchata is a rice-based drink that started in Spain and then moved to Mexico and South America. This beer was brewed with rice, lactose, cinnamon, and vanilla. So a traditional blonde is usually about 5%, and this one is a 7.2. So it's definitely a one of it's a little heavier than usual. Um, so then here at Servehzah, we do something different with this. So we actually do a rim. So if you can see in the picture, that's actually cajeta. So cajeta is a goat milk caramel, and then we sprinkle it with sugar and cinnamon. So it kind of gives it like that dessert kind of churro style. So we brought in this beer usually around Cinco de Mayo. So it was definitely hit. We brought in what about 20 cases, and we're about almost done with it. So hopefully we can collaborate with somebody locally, and we can create a horchata for our own tap room. So like again, like if you guys come to Servehzah, we can definitely do a ram or even try it at home. So yes.
Man, this beer is
I
so good. I had to take it out front and pour the rest of it for a couple of my customers. This is great, dude. This is good.
Yeah, no, it's a really good beer. Like you can get the cinnamon, the vanilla in it, the lactose, the creaminess. With this beer, you can definitely do like a chicken salsa, some fish tacos. Shoot, I honestly think like this type of beer, since it's 7.2, you can drink it in kind of like in the summer and also in the winter because you can get the freshness and then the heaviness in for the winter. So again, it's one of our biggest cans here that selling in Servehzah. I see a sticker.
Very cool.
I can remember the first time I had this here. So I bet Johnny gets this at his shop all the time. But when you see the can and you can't see the liquid, and you tell me horchata, I automatically take my mind to dark. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to get this stout or this porter that's going to be heavy and it's going to be double-digit ABV and it's going to be a certain way. And the first time you have this beer and you pour it, I always reference the naughty sauce effect because it's the first beer that ever did it for me when I had naughty sauce at Noble Aleworks. But when you pour it out, not only does the color fool your eyes, but the flavor fools your palate because you get this full flavored beer that traditionally would have been held in a porter or a stout, but you get it in a blonde or golden ale. And for me, it just blows my mind every time I have it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, like I know Belgian beer that came out with one, and it was honestly really heavy. But you can't drink as much when it's that heavy. It's just one of those like you drink one, but you don't want to drink multiple. And I believe this is the first time they actually brought in cans. The brewery they usually carry it in a 750 milliliters. So now this is the first year they actually do it in cans. So that was pretty cool from them. Um, so I know we also have so there's a brewery and just quick note in San Diego. It's called Border X. They also do a horchata blonde, and I know they're killing it with this beer. So if you guys are out there too, I suggest you go ahead hit up Border X.
It makes me want to make a horchata version of my blonde, dude.
Hey, let's talk.
What about a horchata version of the Nueva Esperanza?
I'm here a week next week, so let's talk about it.
Awesome, John. More about Servehzah as a entity, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the Arts District wasn't your first location. So could you tell me how that went down or how that's been treating you so far?
Yeah, so this concept started about 6 years ago. It was a group of Latino men drinking craft beer. We kind of started a little like, not like a club. It's just like we started visiting beer festivals and we started traveling. So, we decided like, what can we tie our culture to the craft scene, right? So we decided to, name it Servehzah. So from there, like it started, my whole background has always been beer. So from there, we started working into this concept. So, that's why we tied to Servehzah. So here at Servehzah, we have over 130 cans, like I mentioned, and we have 24 beers on draft. We have all these different types of murals from more like celebrities that we grew up with. We have Pedro Infante, Chente, we have Celia Cruz, Aniceto Molina, and that's those ones we have. So, as we went on, we decided to start at, we were looking at Henderson, but that fell through. And then, so our licenses was really, really the hardest thing because we do on and off. So, basically, when we were finishing, we end up in the art district. So it was we were grateful to end up in a location like this. We're surrounded by different breweries, so it was great.
We talked a little bit earlier with your Ryan Reeves beer and Justin Nomad producing your Nueva Esperanza. And so could you tell us about contract brewing? Everyone on the call is familiar with that concept, and how does that benefit both parties or multiple parties, and what does that process usually look like?
Yeah, so we collaborated, like, obviously with Astronomy and Justin Nomad. So they when we started, obviously Mexican lager is by far my biggest beer style as here Servehzah. So they approached me and be like, hey man, how would it be cool to have your own Mexican lager? So it gives like a little collaboration between all of us. That way when people is like, hey, like when they ask our guests, it's like, where are you brewing this? It's like, hey, we're not necessarily a brewery, but we're actually doing collaboration with local breweries. So somebody who can't really go up to Henderson, they go to Servehzah and be like, oh, you know what, like that's pretty cool that you collaborated with us in Astronomy to create this Mexican lager. So later on the road, they might want to visit the brewery down in Henderson. And just like Mojave, like we have a tamarind cider that we use it for, like, our micheladas as well. So somebody who doesn't necessarily want to drive to Henderson, they can just visit the art district and we have it on draft. We're actually the only ones that are carrying that tamarind cider. So I think it's a great collaboration with the community, and we honestly look forward to partner up with the different breweries. So we actually carry half, one third of our menu is local breweries. So we definitely support locals. Even our cans, we carry a lot of as soon as the Able Baker they drop the cans, we bring it in along with Astronomy. So we want to keep that tie-ins with the community. We want to keep that relationship going.
So we have about 10 more minutes program. So if any of the attendees who have tuned in have any questions for our brewery panelists, please put it in the chat. Also, I throw it to you guys for any last parting words. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about supporting the local scene, and for all of us that are on the call, we're probably related to the hospitality chapter and have touched that tourism or that industry at some point. So we know how important that is in supporting each other. We are so appreciative that you were able to spend some time with us today and share your knowledge and your passion for the craft brew scene. We're open to questions and chats again in our last 10 minutes. Feel free to use the chat or the Q&A feature, and we'll make sure we get that in there.
So somebody just put in the chat, what's everyone's favorite beer of all time? Mine is the Pyramid Hefeweizen. It's a Northwest beer. I heard Pyramid is like done as a company.
That says everything I need to know about you, Matt.
Yeah, you know what? Cool. But seriously, that beer is awesome. If you come to my place right now, we have the Perihelion Hefeweizen on tap. It's basically a clone of that beer because I love that beer so much.
I think that was because it had flavor and it had body and it wasn't just a watery sort of beer. So I'm with you.
Hear that, Manos?
Like going back to that era, I think the beer that really, really got me into craft beer, and I'm gonna dig deep here, was Pete's Wicked Ale. If anybody ever remembers that. I remember the first time I had a Pete's Wicked Ale, I was like, what is this? And when I lived in Hawaii, I loved Red Stripe. And there was only like one or two stores on the whole island that had Red Stripe. And I literally would drive from one side of the island to the other to go to a store just to buy Red Stripe because it was my beach beer. It was like the perfect combination of malty sweetness and alcohol to sit on the beach and drink. And I just loved Red Stripe. So I don't know if that's my favorite beer in the world, but that's the beer that definitely probably got me into craft beer and something that's got a big place in my heart.
Johnny, you have a favorite beer of all time?
Definitely, it was a Rogue Dead Guy. I think that was my first craft beer that I ever drank. It was actually at Beach's restaurant. That's where I started. So I was a busser, and it's like, hey man, you want to try some craft beer? I'm like, yeah, why not? And that's what got me into it. So yeah, definitely Rogue Dead Guy.
To get back to Johnny's spot a little bit, so he didn't talk much about his bottle shop and the fact that you can go in there and grab people's bottles and take it out, which is super cool, especially in that area down there because there's so many breweries and we're allowed, and Matt does it too, to can our own products and sell them over the bar to people who buy, but we can't really, or we don't really do it with other people's products. So Johnny's got a cool little room inside his tap room that's refrigerated that you can walk into. It's tight, but it's cool because you're like up close and personal to the beer. You're like right on top of them. You feel like it's a sale tactic. You feel like you have to buy something because you walked into the room and you're practically licking each can already. So
it's a beer cave.
That's it. So I literally, this is what you get from sales. So I actually got sent specifically down there to get this beer by a particular individual and bought a couple of these. But it's nice to be able to have a brewery in that area, and I still got to go get the total experience at Johnny's spot. He knows I love it there. I go and have beer. I visit Matt too. But it was really cool to be able to buy this as a gift and take it out of there and bring it to somebody. And it's just a cool little component, and it was a fantastic idea. And also on the last end of it is too, don't let him undersell you. I'm going to tell a bad story about myself. So he said he had another location and he went to go to the Arts District area. So he's really good friends with my co-owner, Randy Rohde. And Randy told me he was coming to the area. And I'm like, wow, I don't know. So Rose from Silver Stamp had signed a lease on her place. And I was like, now we're going to have 2 bottle shops because I wasn't fully cognizant of Johnny's full business plan. And they're going to be so close together. If I was Johnny, I'd be really, really worried about Rose sticking it to me because people love her and they're going to come and visit her. And I think I even mentioned that to Johnny before he opened. And he just kind of looked at me and was like, nah, brah, I got my own clientele. I'm good. And I didn't realize the power of the community that he had around him and to support. And quite honestly, it's been amazing to see, man. He was telling the stories in 2016 about what he was going to do. And Matt and I have had this conversation, and Matt actually had it online about how we sat around one day at a bar and said about what we were going to do. And you kind of have this dream of wanting to be a small business owner, but it's like that unfinished novel in your bedstand. Everybody's going to be the next great American author, or they're going to publish their book of poetry, but nobody goes through the steps to make it happen. And you're looking at a couple people here in Matt and Johnny who took the dream and turned it into a reality. And that is really, really hard to do. And it's amazing to see. And both guys are very successful. And it's pretty amazing to watch them do what they're doing.
No, appreciate it, man. Yeah, like I say, I think, go back to like what you're saying, like a beer cave and also like the culture, like that's something that we were aiming for, how do we attach our culture in general market, so I believe like Hispanic market is one of the fastest growing craft drinkers in the country. So we see it in California where they even have clubs. They have SoCal Cerveceros, that's what it's called. So the little clubs that get together in the backyard and they brew beer, and they're all Hispanics. So it's cool that we were able to create that, bring that into the art district, and also with us here at Servehzah. So we get people who have no idea. It was like, hey man, like I have never had a craft beer, like help me, So we're extremely grateful that we get to be part of the experience with craft beer. We started with with the regular, Mexican lager and Nueva Esperanza, and we slowly start moving up something else, so we can find the right beer for them. So it's amazing seeing the what we have done here at Servehzah. So we're extremely grateful. So we look forward to see what else we got planned out, so we can create that more of the community.
Awesome.
Really grateful for you too, man, because like there's a lot of places where I go to and I kind of have to sell them on my beer, have to go in, do this, but we got that working relationship. So I said, hey, I got a beer coming out. I was like, how much can I have? Can I get it in half barrels? I don't want no small amount. I'll just go through that in a week. So we love you too, man.
Yeah, like I appreciate it, all the collaborations and the support from everybody. I know opening a business is not always easy, especially we opened late October, so it hasn't even been a year yet. So we definitely opened middle of COVID. So we're extremely grateful of how we started and where we are right now. So at this point, the sky is the limit. So we look forward to seeing what's coming up next. So.
Yeah, and Sue, for everybody out there that's listening, I didn't graduate from the school of hospitality. Like, I had a science degree but I worked my way through school, bartending and doing different things and kind of just learned it on my own. But I've got a great appreciation for education, and I know Johnny got that degree with the intention of doing what he's doing, and that's foresight. You know what I mean? You could have the opposite version where I go and get a microbiology degree and then my mama cries when I tell her I'm not going to use it. So at least he went out and did it and got it. And the other thing I would say is if anybody hasn't been out to Henderson lately to visit Matt, he remodeled his tap room over COVID. He's making fantastic beer. It's a 52-minute drive for me. I could walk around the corner to see Johnny and he'll tell you I do it often. And a good friend of mine it's her favorite spot in the city and she won't leave it alone. So he's got a lot of big fans, but it's a 52-minute drive for me to go and see Matt. And I still do it because he's a good human being and he makes great beer and he's got a facility worth visiting. And my guess is that I get referenced a lot here through the Abel Baker stuff, but boy, I've got room to grow a little bit. But I think those two guys have room to grow a lot, and you're going to see it happen exponentially over the next probably 12 or 14 months. So anybody who can go out and support those businesses, please do. Obviously, the love is already here from people being here, and thanks to Jen and her team for putting this stuff together. And it's just great to see it happen. We never would have been able to do this 2 years ago. We would have done a Zoom call like this, and first people would have said, what is Zoom or Remo? No one would have known. And second of all, no one would have shown up. So it's amazing to see the support and how interested people are in the craft beer as both the industry and a community-related element, and I dig it.
Awesome. And I think with that, we are at time. So on behalf of the UNLV College of Hospitality and our alumni, to all of the panelists being on the call today, as well as all of you who have tuned in and support. The recording of this Salud Prost Cheers session will be posted to the college's YouTube. You'll find copies or episodes of our other programs like Cook Like a Rebel or our industry panels. So feel free to check those out. And because all of these beers are available to the public, feel free to recreate this Beerfest with your 21 and over friends and family. These are all summer for quite a while here. So we are enjoying the brews. You can find Abel Baker in the Gateway District near Wyoming and Maine. Astronomy Aleworks is in the Henderson Booth District near the 215 and 95 interchange, close at Warm Springs and Eastgate. And then Servehzah is in the Arts District at Colorado and Commerce. If you have any future ideas for programs or want to volunteer with our board, please feel free to reach out. Our website is unlv.edu/hospitality. Or you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the social channels. Thank you again, everyone, for have a great rest of the summer. Cheers.